here in the room and at home. Artist and as a human being, and how she tells stories, use her voice, give her opinion about all kinds of things.
Yes.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you very much. So, hello. Nice to meet you. I'm Kalkidan Hoex. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, about my label, how I use jewelry as a tool to translate and to express my stories, and how I also use different mediums. Oh, wait. This one doesn't want to start here. Under my label, TheNEWtribe. And so I hope you enjoy it, and feel free to have lots of questions after this presentation. All right. So I studied for 6 years in Maastricht, Maastricht Institutions of Arts. And I studied, well, in the beginning I studied jewelry design, and then the course switched, and I continued studying object. And I got my bachelor in 2018, so it's not that long ago. And after that, I immediately went into my master degree, and I did a 2-year master degree contextualizing jewelry afterwards. And I graduated in 2020, so that's last year. So about me, sorry. I was born in 1993, and I was born in Ethiopia, so that's me. And I was adopted in 1995 to the Netherlands, to that family. That's my mom and dad, and my brother from Colombia and my sister from Brazil. We have a very multicultural family from lots of places. My cousins are from Nepal. My aunt is from Indonesia, and together we are a family. So I got like a lot of inspiration from out of this perspective, but that's not completely how TheNEWtribe started. In 2018, I created TheNEWtribe and started to explore the interaction between my own identities. So I always felt like I lived in between two worlds. So I was never really Dutch through the color of my skin, but also my hair, or there was, you just don't look Western. But going back to Ethiopia, I realized I'm not Ethiopian either. So the way I walk, talk, dress, I don't speak the language. They want to consider you Ethiopian because I look Ethiopian, but it was, a dilemma. So I had a lot of struggles with that. And in my bachelor degree, I got a turn that actually it's my power. So the fact that I'm in between two worlds and I can overcross from the Western world and how they implement things, or how I learn things, but also still, no matter what happens, I will always be Ethiopian. So I have certain ways of making, in my way of making, but even in my way of acting, if you would know me as a person, that even people who I know now and are Ethiopian are like, you are definitely in ways still Ethiopian. So in my bachelor, I started to draw a lot. So I love drawing, but also create more from the perspective of materials. So I love waste materials and combine these into jewelry pieces. And I started to explore a lot in my bachelor about different sort of tribes. So I was very interested in the Omo Valley of Ethiopia and the different sides of tribes you had in the way of creating a piece or even an art piece, and how at the same time I implemented waste materials that were more from 3D printing, which is more a technique known and used in Western countries, and how together they still become very, a mixture of these both worlds. I started to explore if I could combine these ways of thinking, so it became more a way of thinking also in my illustrations. So this very tribal look to it, with still these very intense, well-known Western aspects to it, that mixtures always very well to the image, but also the identity of the TheNEWtribe. These are some other images I made back in 2018 that also always go with the jewelry pieces, so they're never really loose from each other. So usually also when there are exhibitions, or I have a lecture, or people ask about my work, they're never loose from each other. They empower each other as well. So these are more from 2019, and that's the first year I started my master's, and in there it became for me very clear that I was interested in I was always interested in superheroes. But what is exactly the context of a superhero? So in the beginning, I was very much drawing still this boundary between objects or jewelry in imagery, and then this mixture of identity again. But I usually give them superpowers. But a little bit more about that later, how that developed into something completely different. These were my graduation jewelry pieces from my bachelor. So as you can see, once again, I also used a lot of beads, and I also used like wax carving techniques for the golden eyes, for example. And I also really like to use also existing objects. So for example, the piece below has an object that I implemented. It was an Ethiopian object that I implemented in my own piece. The other two pieces were more on a technique of, for example, using screws, and it's also about how you implement that screw on that jewelry piece. So these kind of almost quick solutions to fixing something on something else is a very much used technique, not only in Ethiopia, but I saw that coming back in Ethiopia and in the objects they made constantly over and over again. And in a way that was very natural for me to do as well. So there's never really a way to completely explain why certain things are for me connected to my heritage, but I always let that sometimes very much just flow in when I work, and then later on I try to look for reasons or connections, but you can't grasp on it 100%. These are some other pieces also on the side, and then we come to the ancestor faces, the jewelry pieces, the rings. These are I think for the people who know the TheNEWtribe, these jewelry pieces are the most known now. These are tribal ring faces. So when I started looking into certain tribes in the Omo Valley, there are different ways of reflecting culture, and one of them was, for example, to that how do you say that? These warriors in like tribes, they would have shields, and on these shields they would have faces, and these faces had meaning, and they would reflect their ancestors, and these ancestors' faces were always shaped very strangely, but they describe it as that these faces would scare their opponents, so they would be there to protect them, but also to give them like almost like a step ahead. And I thought this communication part between these faces and the opponents was very interesting and still very recognizable. So I felt a connection to it, but it also really reminded me on how we in the Western countries use emoticons to still express the same way of saying something. So every emoticon means something else, but we also have like our own little stories towards these emoticons and why we send them to certain people. So I wanted to like bring these two worlds together and like bridge them. And that's what I did in the TheNEWtribe rings. And yeah, they also became now pendants, but they always have a character and they always have a certain face. It's not that I'm first making the face and then thinking like, oh, what could it be? But it's more like a natural flow. So I have a certain idea with a face and what kind of character it would have. But all of them are faces there to protect. So I have some images from the different tribes. And here you can see, for example, how to use face paint to endure their faces, but it's more than that. It's also about beauty, about status. It's about if you're married or not. So it's also a communication tool. So faces came like a lot back in 2018 for me. And as you saw in my jewelry collection, that reflected it once again. So the translation of these faces. And here you have the TheNEWtribe rings. So I have these right now, mostly on my Instagram. And I don't know, I always try to make pictures with like the target group I aim for. So they're usually people who can understand this way of feeling like you're in between two worlds, and people I came in contact with, and that are usually young people who fled their country, who were adopted, who grew up, like their parents fled the country, but they grew up here. They all have a certain narrative of having two different conceptual maps almost, and they understand the overlayers. So that is always my target group, and I aim to also use them in my photography. We do always the shootings together, and to be honest, I never really use like models, like real models. These are like guys from Amsterdam, and they all just kind of became part of the TheNEWtribe. So what I really like is that people who I meet on the street or are maybe doing completely something else with life, you find a connection with them, and they fit to your story, and you want to work with them. So it's never for me about finding the most prettiest person and putting them on camera. I want real people who are connected to my story in this image, because I think that translates the jewelry pieces the best, but also the image, the power of this image is the best in that way. So we come to 2020, when I started my master's degree and where I graduated. And I started that year much more deeper on what I really wanted out of TheNEWtribe. So I felt like when I was done in my bachelor that I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I had a certain direction, but I didn't feel like I had the core of what it now exactly meant for me, TheNEWtribe, and how I wanted to continue and push that forward. So I have to be honest, when I did my master's, I really found that I learned a lot about representation. So there was different kind of literature like Stuart Hall that I was very interested in that showed how representation works. So in imagery, in video, in jewelry, and also what does that say to the people, not only for who you make it, but also to people who want to explore this, want to be educated by it. So there were certain levels of discoveries I did. So I found out that I wanted to be jewelry to be symbolical, educational, and representational. So how do you combine these three, and what is my work going to say? So I went a lot in the direction of Black culture. So I was in the beginning very frustrated about themes as cultural appropriation, but how do you pin that down for yourself? So that was definitely a journey, and then I figured that it's not about how somebody else only works with certain cultures, but it's more how I know or have a voice to work with TheNEWtribe and bring that out. So the right education, but also the right knowledge and the right way of presenting this. And I thought that was much more important for me as a focus than the other. So in my master's, I created a collection, Speaking with Hair. And the topic was on the Afro hair and the variations of Afro hair, but also how we keep creating with hair, how important that is for us, and how an empowerment it is for us. And for me, Speaking with Hair was not only about bringing that out once again, because I think I know quite some Black artists who bring it out, this concept once again, but it was more about also the educational part of this collection. So the Speaking with Hair was connected with a comic, and in this comic we would have a representational person, like a small short comic where I would talk about different references from Afro hair, but also let imagery, words, the way a person stands is drawn in an image, push my audience already in a certain direction that would give them an idea of what I want them to read and what I want them to learn and what I want them to reflect on. So I thought that was a very interesting way of, and a new way of making drawings, because usually I just work a lot about, like, from my fantasy and how I would like to make it look, but now it was much more directed. Before I jump to the comic, what I really liked about the photography, and later you're going to see a small film, from this collection, is that the focus was even more about this certain group who all personally I know, but also have a certain voice in society, and I know that a couple of them were dancers, and we were doing the photo shoot, and it wasn't like all super planned out. We weren't like, oh, it needs to look like this and it needs to be perfect, and oh my God. We kind of just were like, okay, we want these jewelry pieces with these certain people. We got like a location in Amsterdam where we usually hang out or separately hang out, and we like to be there. So we wanted to make those pictures there, and then this natural almost flow came where there was like a lot of dancing, and we were kind of wearing the jewelry pieces and making videos, and then we assembled all these pieces together, and then we got all these pictures of my friends with the jewelry pieces, and it just reflected exactly this cultural behavior, but also this identity we have together. So I thought that was nice. Here are certain images from the comic book, and as you see, it's like a lot. So I worked a lot with certain words. And a lot of color over layers, where the basic story is like still in these, traditional comic clouds, but there are so many more images to see. So they're like posters hanging in a room, and they start with like girls who have like straight hair, and the end of the comic you see suddenly girls with afro hair, without acknowledging that, oh look, it changed. No, the audience has to figure certain things in the image out by themselves, and that's how I learned how you can play with certain representation in imagery. And for example, also the girl in the end, where she starts to change and she wears the jewelry piece and comes on like a new perspective. In the end of the comic book, it translates to what the meaning of the jewelry is and the layers it connects to it. So next to that, I started, or what I also do is draw digital, but also by hand and paint. And I was much more interested suddenly also in making these more political imageries, where there is a voice behind every drawing. So what does it say? It's the first imagery where every phone says, we will follow, we will hear you, we see you. So where suddenly the voiceless have a voice, where you can be anywhere and be seen by so many people in the world. I thought it was very powerful view. And the second one as well, where there was more almost like a frustration explosion, where there are a lot of words, colors, but references layered in an image. And I like that works, and that it expresses a lot, and how that expression is picked up by my audience. So here comes the video.
It's fresco.
On the block, every other day another drop. 16 bars, 24 pop, 44 song. Give me what you got. I'm in the driving cars, push up off the lot. I'm not shut my doors down just so I can shop. If you need it, I could get it. Tell me what you need, you know I get them by the flock. I call my homie Black, meet me on the app. I hit wash heights with the money in the bag. We in the big spin and see my pippin' never drag. Find me with different women that you never had. For those who say they know me, know I'm focused on my cream. Playing you come between, you better focus on the. I keep it so mean, the way you see me lean. And when I say I'm hot, this is what I mean. This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot.
So short, that was my video. So as you also see, they're like, we overlayered still some jewelry pieces, so you could see some close-ups. But because that day went so spontaneous and with a flow, we thought it was cool to bring this in. It says a lot of this group as well. So, what I do now, because now I'm graduated and I already like started some new work, but it's kind of a journey, because when you're done, you start like figuring out what you want also for yourself. And there's so many directions to go into. And what I figured out for myself is that what is important to me is that I want to be effective, and in a way that I can do something for the younger generations, and that maybe through how I tell the stories of my jewelry pieces, but also how I like to do projects. So one of the projects you see in the corner, I actually did still during my master degree in 2019. And I collaborated with Bata. Not sure if everybody knows that, but it's like a sneaker store, and it also sells clothings. And I asked them to collaborate with me with Obsessed Jewelry Month. And I wanted to bring up an exhibition that was about that the identity is diversity. So what I saw, that I had a lot of links with like friends in even styles we are interested in. And even though what I thought was funny, there's one of my friends who was very inspired by the hardcore scene, the Dutch hardcore scene. And I'm definitely not. And I thought I was still interested how she references still a lot to like certain streetwear that actually also reference a lot in hip hop. So how we overlayer still in certain ways is very interesting. And that is the same for how we sometimes think and our thoughts. So I thought this exhibition should be about how the majority is diversity and how diverse we are. So we did that at Patas and showed our work, and we got a lot of interesting feedback on that, also by people who didn't even know about the jewelry field, who just came in because also, of course, they know Pata, so they think like, oh, there's Pata and they have something to do there, so we're going to check that out. But it's good, because that way you have different kind of people who come in and comment on your work, because what I really, mostly like also is that people also who I have on Instagram or who I work with or meet are not always people who are from the jewelry scene. So finding your own way and finding your own people is very important. And I thought that was a good way to do it. And yeah, we enjoyed that very much. And then we have the Voices of Fashion exhibition in Utrecht Centraal, which I thought was very interesting. Exhibition by Janice Deal about Black culture in variations of way, a lot of fashion, a lot of jewelry as well. And I am in that exhibition with my work right now. And through there, the museum approached me for like smaller projects with like younger kids. So in Utrecht, there are like different schools, for example, and to educate them on how you make like how do you call that? Like these boards you use when you want to protest. These, yeah. So they asked me to teach kids how to make a statement or draw a little sentence and then make drawings around it. And it has nothing to do with jewelry, but I thought that was really nice. And I wanted to do that. To be honest, this was the first time I worked with kids who were like in elementary school. So that was different, but it was really fun. They have a lot of questions, but they are very eager to learn, and they are also interested in it. And I thought it was nice that they learned from each other, because even when they're so young, they have clearly something to say. And to say something about their city or their neighborhood or even about their friends, very sensitive things. And I thought that was a very nice learning point too. So we're going to do that again, another project, and then I'm going to develop a project around jewelry design, and then I will go once back to the same school. And then the last project underneath is with State of Fashion and with Mode and Fashion Clash. And they developed this program called Task Force Fashion. And every small group, so people are selected, are connected to a city. So I was connected to Rotterdam. And there we are all now together developing a plan or a project for certain groups. So what I did is once again I located certain organizations like called North, and they have once again nothing to do with jewelry. So for them I was a completely new world, and for me they were a new world because I didn't do a project yet in Rotterdam with certain young teenagers or young adults who are like interested in arts. So now I'm developing a project called Gear Up, and it's about having gear as connected to as being a superhero, but then for your neighborhood, and what does that mean for you? And around that project for Rotterdam, I'm gonna create once again with a group certain gears. So if that will be wearable jewelry pieces, not so important, but it's important for me that they learn how to develop their own small story and developed it once again in an art form work, which is obviously guided in direction of jewelry because, you know, me. But yeah, I think it will be a nice push for these young people. And there will be an exhibition around June as well with this exhibition. So hopefully if you're interested, it will definitely come online if you obviously can't come to the Netherlands now. But you will be able to see it. So what I also do is go to these events, or yeah, you call them kind of events where you protest and you stand strong together. Like, it's not always for me about the making part. So because I do so many things next to making jewelry, yeah, it's sometimes a lot, yeah, a lot of different things. So there's not always a complete focus for my jewelry pieces, but I'm okay with that because I learned so much also from things that stand loose from the making part only. So another thing I did was the Crucible magazine with Current Obsession that came out in March. That was me with two other girls from London who developed this magazine, and this was once again for the voices of artists who are multicultural artists who from different ethnicities who are usually not heard, or give them a chance, a platform to express their art through this magazine. And it was a really good opportunity because it was with Current Obsession and they have a very big platform. But we are definitely interested in how this can grow or what this could be more. And in the corner was another picture of one of the kids working. So, bringing empowerment one jewelry piece at a time. That's my statement for myself, but also what I keep reminding myself of. And thank you very much. I'm very ready for the questions now.
Right, I'm coming. Right, take a step back. Hi, thank you. I've got a lot to digest, so there's maybe more questions that will be too late, but one jumps to mind straight ahead is that you talk about the jewelry tribe, and I can see you've really built up a tribe around you through the project, and I was wondering, you're the main designer of the tribe. Do the other tribe members play a role in the design process as well, or do they play different roles in the tribe?
Right now, they don't play a role in the making of the jewelry. I am always interested in that. Like, what if certain people would make certain parts of like one big piece, for example, or but maybe for in the future. I think for now, I'm still like so pastly done with school. There's a lot for me to like sink in and find my way. But right now, what we do as a tribe, or what I can call my tribe, is that we do always like kind of make the photography or the certain aspects. They have like kind of ways in saying like, oh, maybe you should do this, or I am also always interested in like maybe the next models should be certain people, new people I've met, or so it's more smaller parts now in the visualization of the, when I already have made the work, and then how we are going to translate that story in imagery or in a video, than the actual making right now.
I think that makes sense, though. I mean, when you grow a new tribe, you need to slowly grow it, and everybody needs to find their space in it. So, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Kalkidan, welcome. I'm
Hi.
Marielle, currently studying at the Master at our beloved academy. And I have a question. When I was curious about when you was talking about the workshop with the kids,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a question that is, would you consider this jewelry workshop with kids an art practice? If your answer is yes, and what exactly is the art practice on that?
Mm-hmm. I do this from out of my own practice, yes. But if I would call it immediately an art practice, I call it more an educational course or workshop maybe. Because, if it would be an art practice, once again, are we going to lay on then rules again, how they should be doing or what they should achieve? Or I kind of give them a lot of visuals and a lot of information, and I want to inspire them, but I'm not going to control in any way what the outcome is of what they do. So I let that be very free in how they do that. So that's why I think I consider it more as like an educational workshop, if that answers your question. Good. In the back.
Okay, yeah. Do you feel like your brand has become a platform through which you maximize the voice of the people who are too afraid to speak up? Because I see you're a confident person, but it's not like some people are scared. Do you feel like you've created a platform for those who are not able or afraid to speak?
I think I think I'm good on my way, but I still want to grow in it, because I have this idea in my head. If I had to visualize my idea of what I would really want, is that I could locate. Well, now it's Rotterdam, but who knows if that would change. But I could live in that city and have my practice and my practice would be half TheNEWtribe, where I create my jewelry pieces, but half would be TheNEWtribe, like a safe home. So even for like young, I think around more like teenagers, young adults who are like put in a system because they don't as function with society, to give them a way to make and let them express what is holding them back or putting them out of place, or that they can grow there, and maybe that can help to get them back on their feet in society. I think that's important, and that's where I want to go to, that kind of balance of this making, but also helping. Yeah, if that answers your question. I think I want to go to that direction, but that doesn't mean that anybody who is connected to TheNEWtribe has to end up to become a great artist or has to be a great artist. If you're going to be again in the end a nurse, but you were just stimulated by TheNEWtribe, I think that's still a very beautiful thing. Yeah.
Hello.
Hey.
I also have a question involving your wishful audience, or your target audience. You
Mhm.
mentioned something about that, like you always have your tribe for who you're making, and that you're using them with your imagery, trying also to reach out to them.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if you also have other strategies, like trying to get your jewelry with your wishful audience, wishful wearers in the end.
Yeah, so like different ways how I find ways to approach them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe also if the tribe is
Mhm.
your, if you I don't know, if you see them as your main wearers, or maybe do you see it broader? Is there like I don't know, it sounds maybe a little bit wrong, but
No, it's
like
okay,
a
you can just say it.
preferred audience that you would like to really
Yeah.
reach?
A preferred audience towards the jewelry pieces. Yeah, I think that would be the people I consider connected to TheNEWtribe, or this towards this identity part. But a story can also be told and be worn by people who are not directly connected to this identity perspective. They still empower and bring the jewelry piece under society, and they can still be seen and spoken about. So a real preference that it should only be this direction or that direction, not really, but the focus is definitely there, that the story that it tells, that is important for me, that is about that certain group. But if in the end you want to wear it, or I am wearing it, or more people who are from mixed cultures are wearing it, it just agrees that you agree with this idea that's behind it and the story that it tells. So yeah, if that answers your question. Or I can explain more. You can just ask. Or do you maybe also mean how I find them, or how they find me, or?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that
if you
is-
have strategies, like you think,
Yeah.
because there are like so many parts of making jewelry that you think like, I don't know, your imagery,
Mhm.
materials, prices, places where you sell your
Mhm.
jewelry, the Instagram you use, and I
Yeah.
wonder like which strategies you use to really try and
Yeah.
get to your
Audience.
envisioned audience.
Yeah,
Might
that
be
is a
interesting
strategy.
to hear to everybody here who
Yeah.
also is thinking about their like future wearers.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a strategy though. Yeah, I do, at least with the jewelry pieces, it's true that I looked at not only other jurors, but also about what this target group buys. But to be honest, I'm also my target group, so what I buy is usually what my target group buys. So then I look at the interest of sneakers, for example, and how they can align with the jewelry pieces, not only in a story, but also just purely marketing-wise, to be honest. And that kind of works, so it's still on the level where the certain people that I want them to be able to buy the pieces can. Yeah, that is definitely important for me, but also the way the pictures, like it's very important for me that they can, when they see the pictures, that they can see themselves. So that's also a certain type of representation. So when I see a certain image and this person relates to what I wear or how I look like, it triggers. Yeah, just really, yeah, it's really strange to say it right now because we cannot really socialize. But it's actually very important to just be with a certain group of people you are interested in and ask them questions and connect with them and figure out what they do. Try to work with them maybe once, and that slowly, if you're like use Instagram or Facebook and your LinkedIn and post there your certain stories, and don't be afraid to also post then like a small text underneath. I realize a lot of people read that. You can put a little story there, and that once again will be picked up by more people who will be interested and are actually the people you are looking for, who you are talking about in your work. Okay. No more questions. Oh.
I have one.
Yes.
Because I met you years ago in Munich.
True.
And you made a very nice presentation of your bachelor project, am I right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? Because when I see your whole PowerPoint right now, presentation is very important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, for me, presentation is very much key. So, as I said before, I usually, if it's possible, I create a complete image, like you're almost stepping into a different world. So if I can paint the walls, I will paint the walls. If I can use certain aspects, even like tape on the floor, I did that with my graduation. Have certain pictures, or the pictures I shot with the jewelry pieces and these people, I hang them up. The video, and even the jewelry pieces next to it, that's like very, very important. That's what the power altogether brings. So they're never really separate.
Right, exactly. More questions, students. Yes, Margot. I'm coming.
Well, you said that you work with like waste material, and that there's like a certain meaning. I'm sorry, it's not about the waste material question, because you also mix it with valuable and more conventional jewelry material. Yeah. What is the reason that you use that?
My throat. I think, or it started more with this valuable and like material. So I'm sorry, my voice. Am I fine? Yeah, I'm fine. Excuses. My voice was a bit dry, But to answer your question, I did that because I was looking also between the value of materials. So in my Ethiopian heritage, where things like these were materials, oh my God. Okay, I think it's back. I'm back, right? Yeah, I'm back. What is going on? Very sorry. These waste materials were presented as so valuable objects. And I thought it was very interesting because in Western culture, where, you know, silver and gold are like very much considered as the valuable materials. And I thought it was an interesting contrast because as you saw also in the images before, yeah, I don't know if I have it right now, but where they're even wearing a certain, oh, here it is, wait, I'll just, maybe it works. Yeah, it works, cool. Wearing the watch in that certain way, they consider that as a valuable object towards the whole, almost like hair piece or hairdo. And I thought that the combination of those two was very interesting in telling that story again, if I told you it right. If you understood me.
You mean the placement?
Not only the placement, the object on its own, like this watch, this used, broken watch, using that in the way of shaping an object or in how it's represented right now. I also realized that in certain tribes, certain materials are considered as valuable for how they are made or bound in an object. What's for me, I realized in my Western culture, or how I've learned also that more gold and silver were valuable objects or valuable materials. And that I thought it was interesting to combine these waste materials and these valuable materials together in the jewelry pieces. More symbolical way. Yeah.
yeah, I get what you mean.
Oh, okay. Cool. I'm just keep talking.
There are no more questions, remarks, wishes.
Wishes.
Wait, I'm coming, Valeria. Wait.
I have a question. Sorry, I missed the first part of your presentation.
Okay. Sorry.
I see on your Instagram that you are focused mostly on silver and yeah, I don't know, maybe other metals. And what you're showing here is some other creative material. And so, as I understand, you finished your bachelor in art field. And now you're making more commercial, right, jewelry. Are you still, like, would you think to come back and make some, like, hanky-panky, I don't know, creative stuff, or how you see that now?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah, I totally feel where you're coming from because, as I said before, like, after graduation is like a roller coaster or something. It's like finding your way. So I still will continue with like the TheNEWtribe faces and exploring that, but I don't know. Right now, I am actually focusing on a project where it's more back to more art, so a little bit less away from the commercial once again. And I think that is very much visible on my Instagram, is that in the beginning you see a lot of artwork and a lot of drawings, and now it looks more like a really slick brand. But I will turn around once again because I think it's really difficult for me to focus because there are like so many different directions I work in, and I've always had that I could never really narrow down that I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. But I think it's also for me most interesting, or I feel most comfortable, or when I can I don't mind making like very more commercial or more fine jewelry, but I'm most excited about actually just making these really bigger art pieces. So that will definitely come back.
Yeah, is there someone else? Is everything clear? Yes? Margot, you want to say? No? Perfect. Okay. Okay. Right. Kalkidan,
Cool.
thank you so much for this
You're welcome.
inspiring lecture. And the energy you dropped over our student, I think.
Yeah,
So
hope so.
thank you for that.
Thank you
Tom,
for having
thank
me.
you for your big help for this evening. Amazing.
If you have questions later, by the way, or in 4 weeks, you can just DM me on Instagram or whatever. You can just find me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Is the camera off now?